Hello at magandang kamalayan sa inyo lahat at narito na naman tayo sa ating klase or ang ating tinatawag na class or Kamalayan Learning Alternative Success System under our school. Actually, we have our own online school and it's called Shifting Consciousness Higher Online Lifelong Learning. At dito natin ginagawa ito sa YouTube. And of course, we show it in some other social media platforms like Facebook, and Twitter, and ako po ang inyong guru, Tato Malay. So sana ay samahan ninyo ako sa ating lesson for today. At well, somebody asked me about what or where do I get my lessons or the kind of teachings that I share dito sa aking school or school or sa ating class. At sabi ko nga, well, I have to admit that most of the things, if not all, are from extraterrestrials or ETs. At I am not anymore hiding the fact that I really got to learn more about their teachings when I discovered that I I read a book before in the late 70s about tungkol kay Seth. Seth is actually uh, well, Seth was being was being channeled by sino ba itong ano to? I forgot her name. But anyway, so she was channeling itong si Seth and somehow when I got to read the book, sabi ko ang ganda ng mga sinasabi rito. And I actually tried to, of course, mahirap, mabigat. I mean, just not an easy read. So I tried to really study or read it again and again until I was able to really absorb what it was really saying. And somehow it got me interested in really learning more about life in terms of not how it was taught to me when I was young or not even in school, but how we should live life according to who we are because it wasn't explained to us as to who we really are. And somehow, doon ko talagang tinignan kung ano ang talagang ibig sabihin nitong pag sinabi mong kilalanin mo sarili mo, magiging maganda ang buhay mo, magiging successful ka. And so that's what I did. I studied them. And then I came across not by accident because I believe kasi doon pa lang sinasabi na nila Seth that there are no accidents in the universe. And so I was really now attracting everything that that would interest me. And later on I discovered um, itong si Ramtha because I actually saw the movie What the Bleep Do We Know? At this movie, What the Bleep Do We Know, is something that you have to really watch. No? It's available in YouTube now, no, for free. I mean, you can watch it. And doon, one of those speakers, kasi karamihan ng mga in-interview doon, mga physicists, mga scientists. And may isa doon, babae, na hindi siya physicist or scientist, but yun na nga, nagtataka ako bakit nandun siya. And yung pala, she was actually saying things that were being studied by these physicists. And the things that she was saying were being channeled by or were being said by Ramsa. Ramsa is, according uh, to JC Knight, no, who was channeling her, channeling Ramsa rather. I think to see ano was a Lemurian during the earliest times that we had in this earth, no. So ito ay mga kumbaga mga early civilizations and somehow I think Ramtha was a soldier, a warrior, a warrior of the Lemurians. And nakalaban nila yung Atlantis. Ayan. Sila yung naglalaban noon. But basically, that got me interested in really knowing exactly who we are according to where we came from. And somehow, parang I did believe in Adam and Eve. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going. I hope I don't offend people here who are, you know, were brought up in a religious way. No, but I actually did not believe much of those that were written in the Bible in terms of the Genesis chapter. And dito ako nagtanong talaga. And this was where I discovered nga, itong mga beings na who were sharing, there were actually entities, spiritual entities, but most of them admitted that they were extraterrestrials because they were living in other planets or in other dimensions. And I'm talking of another one that I got to discover when I watched The Secret. Ito yung si Abraham. And Abraham was being channeled by Esther Hicks. And somehow, ganun din ang format. Actually, yung The Secret na movie, kumbaga parang kinopya lang nila yung concept ng What the Bleep Do We Know. So originally, it was What the Bleep Do We Know movie that actually tried to explain the law of attraction, how to manifest things, how we live, we should live our lives. But always, I mean, doon sa dalawang movies na yun, meron dalawang featured na channelers and they were channeling extraterrestrials. And one of them was Rantha, and the other one in The Secret was Abraham. So that got me interested in knowing more about these beings, these entities. And doon ko na-realize na mas advanced ang mga tinuturo nila. That's why nga, itong mga physicists, mga scientists na nag-talk about, I mean, nag-try to, nag-aaral nitong mga ganitong pangyayari, no? Na hindi pa nakakaabot sa siyensya. And they were trying to explore more about these things. And so sila yung nag-feature dun sa mga movies na yun. So if you get to really watch The Secret and What the Bleep Do You Know, focus on the two channelers, JC Knight and Esther Hicks. No? So eto na yun ang nangyari sa akin. I actually read more about those kinds of concepts teachings of extraterrestrials from Seth to Abraham and to JC Knight, si Ramtha. And somehow I discovered also the book A Course in Miracles. And dito naman ang ina-assume nila na they were channeling Jesus. Maganda yung book na yun. Basically, it's better than a lot of religious books that I have read. A Course in Miracles. And that got me really, really interested in these things. No? So, ito na yung naging foundation ko of what I teach in Kamalayan. So, aside from A Course in Miracles, I discovered later on Conversations with God, which was also being channeled by Neil Donald Walsh. And channel, according to him, he was really channeling God himself. And so, okay lang. I mean, we are open to all these kinds of, ano naman. I was more concerned about the teachings. Kasi sabi ko, I don't know whoever they were talking to, kung sino man yung mga kausap nila dyan o china-channel nila. But ang gusto ko malaman, ano yung sinabi nila, ano yung tinuro. And what amazed me really were the kind of information that they shared na walang nagtuturo na tao rito. No? I've read a lot of success books, self-help books, written by men, and they came close to it. And somehow, siguro, maybe many of them really already learned about these concepts, and they were able to expound on them. No? So ito ngayon ang pinag-aralan ko talaga. So ang nangyari sa akin ay I got deeply absorbed by their by these extraterrestrials teachings, and I bought practically materials or books or ayun nga, ang later on I got to become interested in studying naman the lessons that I got or the information I got from Cryon and Algazar and also Bashar. So ito talagang nakakatuwa, eh. Ang daming information out there, but nobody was paying attention except for people like us. No? Kasi akala nila, eh, ano ba naman yun, baka makademonyo pa yan. Eh, naku, sabi ko nga eh, ano ba naman ito mga nagsasabi na may demonyo pa. Well, of course, ito nga, these spiritual entities that I got to really study are really something to, I would say, discover. No, I mean, if I can make you, watch their videos. I mean, marami sila sa YouTube. No, they're all there. And the latest one nga that I had also studied was that of Ra, the Law of One. Ang ganda rin ng kanyang sinasabi. No, he was talking about uh, uh, the early civilizations that we had here. They were the ones who, sabi nila, they were the ones who uh, constructed the pyramids in Egypt. So maraming ganyang mga storya. But anyway, so these are things that I cannot anymore ignore, or I wasn't able to ignore. And for the past more than 20 years, I would say this had been my kind of foundation in my learnings. No? And I totally disregarded practically everything I learned from my religion, from school. Kasi nga, sabi ko nga, para bang kalokohan yung iba eh. Para bang walang basis talaga. No? Para bang inassume lang nila na gano'n nga. Pero ang tanong dyan is, can it be proven? Kasi ito, ang maganda dito sa mga information that I got from this extraterrestrials, I did actually start to believe them at once or kumbaga parang sinanto ko na kagad sila. I had to prove that what they were saying was true. I tried to really experiment first. Ginawa ko muna. And I tested all the principles that they actually shared. I tested all the well, yun na nga, yung sinasabi nga nilang mga universal laws, no? And somehow, I was able to prove them correct. And I was able to really create all the kinds of miracles I wanted to create early on in my life. And somehow, sabi ko ba, kung ito pala nagagawa ko, dapat magagawa rin ito ng ibang tao. And that's why I am really teaching this to everyone because this is the real correct, I would say, information that we should study. Kaya nga, ito nga nangyayari ngayon sa eskwelahan eh. Maraming papasok na naman. And ano na naman ituturo? The usual things that were taught to us na hindi naman namin nagagamit in the first place. Well, of course, I don't have anything. Well, ito na, if you're taking up a course like that of being, well, if you want to be a doctor or nurse or an engineer, itong mga subjects ito, on health, mga architecture, ganyan, you really have to go to school because merong mga kanyan eh. May kumbaga, foundation kang kailangan matutunan na hindi nagbago. At yun pa rin ang ginagamit up to now. Although may mga modern ways of doing things, pero kailangan matutunan mo pa rin yung basic. So may basic information ka munang kailangan mapag-aralan before you can study the other things. But beyond that, sabi ko nga, you can create whatever life you would want to create by using the information that I'm sharing with you here through what I call now my school called itong Shifting Consciousness Higher online lifelong learning. Why shifting consciousness higher? Because it is really our consciousness. This is what I learned from all those extraterrestrials. They talked about consciousness. But more than consciousness, they talked about God. They talked about that one source. Ang ganda ng explanation nila about God at hindi ito naituro ng katulad na tinuturo sa akin nung nakaraan ko when I was trying to really be, uh, I would say, deeply religious. How I wanted to find out exactly what was going on with my spiritual life as well. And somehow I did not get the kind of explanation. And it was only during these times when I got to really to read and watch the videos as well of these extraterrestrials that I was able to really appreciate who God is in terms of who really it is. Kasi ang dami nagsasabi, iba-iba nga ang Diyos natin eh, yung mga Diyos ng iba't ibang relihiyon eh, sasabihin nila mas maganda yung Diyos namin kaysa sa Diyos nyo. So nagkatalo-talo na. Pero sa mga extraterrestrials, they did not actually compete or they did not even compare. They only talked about one God because they said we were all created by one source, by one being. And lahat sila, they all said the same things. And they came from different dimensions, different civilizations in terms of the extraterrestrial uh, dimension that they had. And somehow, para ba sabi ko nga eh, ang ganda. And somehow, parang it was more practical to really get to learn all the lessons that they were sharing. No? Like, okay, sige, I will share to you some. And somehow, parang bang, ito na nga eh, yun na nga talagang pag nadinig ninyo eh, ah, sasabihin niyo, bakit ngayon lang natin natututunan yan? Eh kasi nga, wala nagtuturo. Ayaw nila ituro dahil sabi nila, eh, hindi naman totoo yan eh. Sabi nila, eh, ang tanong nga dyan eh, bakit hindi nila muna sinubukan para masabi nila na hindi totoo? Ngayon ang palagi sinasabi sa akin ng mga nasa academia. Like when I said, if I take up my master's degree, you know, having a degree on metaphysics, would you allow me to teach metaphysics in school or in any university for that matter? No. Sabi nila ganun. Bakit? Sabi ko, eh kasi that's not acknowledged. It cannot be proven. Sabi ko, ha? So sabi ko, eh kung gano'n na, eh di ko na kailangan pag-aralan dahil the only reason I would want to take up a master's degree is, oh yun na nga, if I could teach. And that degree should be that of being, I mean, sa metaphysics, no? And somehow, ayaw nila. Di wala, di wag na lang. Ngayon, lately, I actually studied, the science of mind. But more than the science of mind, ito na nga eh, these extraterrestrials, one came up with a book. I think it was Bashar. Yeah, Bashar. I read his book, The New Metaphysics. So, may advanced pang klase metaphysics because really, ito na nga yung ito na nga yung tinuturo nila na kailangan maintindihan natin because we are now changing our consciousness in terms of our earth, in terms of our world. Itong ang pandemic na period na ito is somehow a resetting of our consciousness. Kasi nagbago na yung kamalayan ng mundo. From 3D, it had now evolved into 4D and 5D. And tayo nasa 3D or third dimension level pa rin. And dito nagkakaroon tayo ng suffering, struggle, kahirapan dahil nasa 3D tayo. But the moment we are able to evolve into that fourth dimension, and this is where you create now the miracles that you want to create na para bang, wow, ganito lang pala kadali. And that's what I did. When I was able to shift my consciousness to that level, everything that I wanted, I would be able to get. I was able to get and experience without money. Walang bayad, walang pera, wala akong inutang na malaking pera para lang mapanggastos sa ganito. Wala. Talagang I just made it happen. And doon pa lang, sabi ko, well, this thing works. And sabi ko, this is what I have to share with people because this is what we all need. And so now, What I'm trying to do now is to awaken. I cannot force everyone to be awakened or to awaken. I can only just, inspire or influence some. But ito na nga eh, sabi nga eh, ano ba talaga ang kailangan natin gawin, no? Kasi nga itong, when we say we are going to awaken uh, people to what is going on now, at talagang kailangan gisingin ko na ang mga tao na natutulog kasi otherwise they will be at a loss pa rin. Kasi a lot of people don't know what's going on now. Itong pandemic had already changed practically our way of life. And this is where I am now saying this is the time now to change your consciousness. And the most important thing about learning about consciousness is to be aware of who we are. You have to awaken to who you are. Yun lang yun muna eh. That is the primary instruction. You have to be aware of who you are. Find out exactly. Iba-iba tayo ah. We cannot compare ourselves with others. That's one thing. That's why yung ginawa ng eskwelahan kasi, ginawa tayong uniform. At ang sinabi, you have to become somebody. Ah, para maging successful ka. The you have to take a look at that phrase. You have to become somebody. So that means you cannot become you. You cannot become who you are. You have to become somebody else. And that's what happened to a lot of people. We became somebody else. And that's why we were not happy because we were not doing the things that would make us happy because we tried to become somebody else. Eto na yung ginawa natin eh. In-enjoy natin yung nagpakatrabaho tayo, nagtrabaho tayo ng puspusan, kumita ng pera, pero we still felt empty. Why? Because we were not happy. Why weren't we happy? Because we were not doing the things we wanted to do. We were just doing them because we wanted to have money. Ang ginagawa pala dapat natin, baligtad. Discover who you are because if you find out your skills, your gifts, your talents, and this is where now you can make use of them because you will enjoy them because those are innate in you in terms of para bang sabi ko nga, you have to find out exactly first what will make you enthusiastic. So you have to try everything. Di ba yung mga tatay at mga nanay, kuminsan sumusobra na sa, anak, kanta ka dyan, anak, sayaw ka, anak, gawin mo to. Yan. They were actually forcing their children to do things. But many of them were not enjoying what they were doing because they were being forced. And up to now, we force them to study, to go to school, to study subjects they were not interested in. And this is not something we should continue. And this is where now we have to take a look at the changes that we are now supposed to be making. That's why nga ako natutuwa pa, hindi pa nag-start ang eskwelahan eh. Dahil sabi ko nga eh, kawawa mga bata, pag nag-umpisa naman ng klase, they will now again study things that they are not interested in studying it. They will, of course, may mga subjects na importante like reading, writing, counting, speaking, yun, okay yun. Pero beyond that, dapat tanungin mo yung bata, anong gusto mong pag-aralan at doon mo tutukan. Hindi ginagawa ng eskwelahan yan dahil mahal kasi. Imagine if tututukan mo bawat isa, iba-ibang gusto. O di iba-ibang teacher ang kailangan mo para turuan yan. Hindi ganun eh. Kailangan, at yun nga dapat nga talaga ganun pala na iba-iba talaga. Kaya lang, para lang masabing, hindi, kailangan pare-pareho ituturo namin sa inyo at kailangan sabay-sabay kayo to move on to the next level, to the next grade. Kailangan ipasa nyo yan. We will give you tests para malaman namin na nakuha nyo yung tinuturo namin. Ano ginagawa? Anong pamaraan? By memorizing. Minemorize na nila yung mga bagay-bagay para lang may execute sa exam dahil doon ang basehan. So we actually destroyed the love for learning sa mga bata pa lang. And this is not something that we should continue. We cannot anymore. ignore the fact that we have to learn uh, what we want to learn, not what you or what other people would want us to learn. We have to learn what we want to learn, but we cannot learn them or we cannot know that unless we know who we are. That's why it's very important to know who we are. Kilalanin natin muna. Magnilay-nilay tayo. Ano ba magpapasaya sa akin? Ano ba ang kakayahan ko? Ano ba yung gusto ko talaga? Yun na naman eh. Yun lang ang talagang the only way or the only thing that we have to do in this world to be able to know who we are. And from there, kung katulad nung nga, na-interview ko si Freddie Aguilar. Freddie Aguilar knew who he was, who he wanted to be. He wanted to be a singer. He defied his father's plans for him at nag-away sila. He ran away from home. Pumunta siya sa Olongapo. Naging singer siya. But pinanindigan na niya yun. And so what happened? He was one of the most successful singers that we have, or recording artists we have discovered here in the Philippine recording industry. Siya lang ang worldwide accepted isang kanta niya really was translated in several languages, interpreted by I think 53 countries. No? I mean, ganyan. And translated by 23 in 23 languages. Yan, ganun. So, ayan ang importante. Kailangan malaman natin sino ba talaga tayo? Ano ang magpapa-interest sa atin? Kaya nga, ito ang nangyayari sa buhay natin ngayon. Ito, magkakagulo-gulo sila sa education. Ano ba? Ano bang gagawin? Blended learning, online learning, face-to-face learning. Okay. Pagulo na kayo dyan. Pero sa akin, useless lahat yung pinagkakaguluhan nyo. Sayang lang ang panahon, sayang ang effort. Dahil hindi pa rin ninyo ituturo ang dapat ituro sa mga bata. Yun lang ang problema ngayon. Ako, yun lang complaint ko eh. I believe in what school is for. But I do not believe what the schools are teaching now. Obsolete na talaga. Many of them talagang need to be changed. The entire curriculum has to be changed, I would say. Hindi, iba na eh. Kaya nga ito na nga yung mga bata. They're learning online. Iba na ang way of learning nila. Pwede nga sila matuto self-education eh. How? Eh, di ba, bigyan mo ng gadget, sila na yung nag-ooperate yan without any manual. Ano ang ginagawa nila? They will explore and they will try to find out by experimentation. And somehow, they're able to guess it or do it correctly. And so, ang gawin na lang natin is to be able to come up with video games na educational. Na hindi yung patayan kasi karami ng video games eh. Nakaka-addict ang video games. But if you can make them addicted to video games about learning, mas maganda. Mas maganda, di ba? Kasi they will learn a lot of things while playing. And that is what school is really for. Enjoying. Ang actually, yung school the real meaning of school is leisure. Leisure in terms of having fun. That's why nga, kapag kayo ay makakita ng mga preschool, anong ginagawa sa preschool? Naglalaro lang sila, mga bata. Which is exactly what school is for, is really into. Make them really enjoy what they're doing. So paglaruin mo sila kung ano man yung ine-enjoy nila. And that is what we took away from them. Imagine. Ibang concept. We tried to make them uniform, robots. Follow this. You have to follow that. You have to wear this uniform. Pare-pareho lang kayo. And so, ang mga bata, pag-graduate, wala rin mapuntahan. Graduate ka nga. Mag-apply ka sa isang kumpanya. Sabi ng kumpanya, hindi ka qualified. Sabihin mo, graduate ako, I have this diploma. Yun na nga. We made that diploma a sign that it is proof that it is something that is making us knowledgeable. Kaya nga, importante yung diploma sa mga walang alam. At least may papakita kayo, I graduated, ito may diploma ako. Para paniwalaan kayo na may alam kayo. Pero katulad namin na walang diploma, ako, I overstayed in college. I think I stayed there for 6 years for a 4-year course. Eh, kasi nga ayaw nila ako pag-graduatin kasi yung major subjects na kinukuha ko nun hindi pa available dahil walang quota, yung number of students. 'Pag hindi nila ma-reach yung quota ng number of students, they will dissolve the class. And so I was always waiting for students to come on the first day of class. Eh, 3 lang kami, 2 lang kami, o minsan ako lang mag-isa. Dini-dissolve yung class. And so sabi ko, "Teka muna, ano ito, maghihintay ako." And so I took up other subjects which they did not acknowledge, accredit. They did not actually give me a diploma as a result of what I took in terms of the other units I actually finished. Sabi ko, "Eh, lokohan 'to." Hindi na bale. Sabi ko, "I will just get out from school. I will do it my way." And so I did it my way. And so this is what I discovered. You can become successful even without a diploma. So yan ang aking ginawa sa buhay ko. And so now I'm teaching all this because eto na nga yung mga bagay-bagay na kailangan natin maintindihan ngayon. So what I am now sharing really are important lessons coming from extraterrestrials that are not or never had been taught in schools. That's why I wrote a book, Lessons I Never Learned in School, because those lessons I learned from the 80s were not really being taught in schools. So, ang tanong dyan is, kailan ba tayo magbabago ng ating mga paniniwala? We have to change our beliefs. That's why nga, itong aking campaign is, Kamalayan is basically a new belief movement. Which, kasi ang nangyari, when we learned about the law of attraction, about yung metaphysics, akala natin it was just our thoughts that would change our lives. But hindi pala. Our thoughts are among the lowest, sa pinakamababang strata. Mas mataas pa emotions. But more than our thoughts, it is our beliefs. Kasi sabihin mo na, okay, ito iisipin ko, I am now rich, I am now rich. Pero ang belief mo, kasi niloloko mo, mahirap ka pa. Mahirap ka pa sa daga, paano mo sasabihin mayaman ka na, I am rich. So yung belief mo will now not make it happen. So all our beliefs are the ones controlling our lives. Every time we feel something, when something happens to us, there is something that we have in our belief system that reacts to it. That's why our emotions immediately, or our feelings would immediately start activating in terms of what it feels because of, ano yung pinaniniwalaan mo. So, depende yan sa paniniwala mo. So, all these things are actually our lives really are just based on what we believe in. So, we cannot anymore ignore who we are, because if we still don't try to analyze who we are, if we are not aware of who we are, we will not be able to find out exactly our beliefs, our programming, our way of thinking in terms of, being influenced by our belief system. So this is something that has to be now be taken into consideration. No? So with that, I will now, I would say I just wanted to share with you or explain to you why I now am really saying uh, in public that most of the lessons I learned came from extraterrestrials, because basically these are the new things that we have to learn now. This is not something to be ignored, especially in this new world that had been created already. We are now living in a new world. Pero iba-ibang mundo natin. And somehow, many of us naiwan pa rin dun sa third world, sa third dimension rather. Kami, somehow, we believe that nandun na kami sa fourth dimension. So, that's why, iba ang mundo namin. Kahit na nagkakagulo-gulo, masaya pa rin kami. And we're not bothered, we're not afraid, we don't have that fear. Because, iba na yung ano namin naki-create namin. This is where you create now new things. You cannot create any more new things with your old beliefs. You had created everything according to your beliefs as to where you are now. If you want to improve your life, if you want to really make things better now, you have to make your beliefs uh, be acknowledged in terms of what they are, and then try to find out what you want to change and what you want to retain. And this is now the thing, the time now to be doing that. So with that, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you for keeping me company. And well, I'll give you more information about other lessons I've learned from the ETs or the extraterrestrials as we go along. Eh, sana, huwag kayong ma-shock, huwag kayong sabihin nyo, ano ba yan? Turo, kalokohan yata yan. It's not kalokohan. You have to test it. You just test what I'm teaching. If it's kalokohan, well, I will not force you to actually believe what I'm saying. So with that, I'd like to say thank you. Magandang kamalayan sa inyo lahat at uh, till our next class on Friday. This is Tato Malay saying, enjoy your life, enjoy everything. You have all the reasons to enjoy what is going on now. Goodbye and magandang kamalayan ulit.